All right, so I'm just going to share with you how I'm making money today on a daily basis, and how I'm doing it through trade. So when the market goes down, it's a great opportunity because during the bull run, my personal belief is that it's going to bounce back, and it's going to bounce back pretty hard. So yesterday we had a big bounce down, or over the last 2 days we have. And so what I did is I placed some trades. And to do that, I do two things. Number one, I hold about 95, 96% of my money long term, and I'm invested in three different areas heavily. I'm invested in Microstrategy, Bitcoin, and Tesla. But when the markets go down, I like to trade on something that is 2x. So when I trade on a version of Microstrategy. It's called a derivative of Microstrategy, and it's a 2x on Microstrategy. So when I trade, I'm able to get huge upside swings like I did today, and cashed out close to 16% in less than 24 hours. In fact, I placed a trade last night after hours, and now today it's at 12:47 Pacific time. So in about 15, 16 hours, I made 16% on my money. All right. So how am I doing that? One, philosophically, trading is something that you need to learn to do. And it's something that if you're not watching the charts, it's ultimately risky. Okay. That's the first thing. Okay. Second thing, I hold 96% of my money long term. So I'm trading on a daily basis with about 4% of my money. All right. When I'm trading that money, this morning or last night, I bought into a position, and the position is called MSTU, which is basically a 2x on MicroStrategy. So if MicroStrategy goes up, then it goes up to about 2x what MicroStrategy goes up at. If MicroStrategy goes down, it goes down about 2x what MicroStrategy goes down at. So this is super risky to some degree because you're trading on leverage, or you're trading a leveraged derivative of MicroStrategy. So it is riskier. Trading also on a daily basis is riskier if you don't know what you're doing. In most situations, if you just hold your money, you'll probably make more. But it's a fun game for me. And when I'm paying attention to the charts, like I have been, I am able to make good returns. All right. So I'm going to just show you basically how I do it. I'm going to give a shout out to InvestAnswers right now, because this is a chart and scripts that were created by InvestAnswers. So I'm giving the credit to InvestAnswers on this. And now I've used the technology to actually make some money with it. All right. So again, when I'm trading on a daily basis, I'm only doing it with about 4%, maybe 5% of my money. The other 95% I invest long term. So this is very important. I would never sit here and trade with 100% of my money. Okay. Secondly, when the market went down and a lot of people were like, whoa, the market's down, man. Like, this is awful. Yeah. While I hold 95 to 96% of my holdings like Bitcoin and MicroStrategy and Tesla long term, nobody likes to see the market go down. But also, we can study the charts and see when the market's kind of at the bottom. And then I buy in and I place some trades where I can make some quick money on a daily basis. So if you look at the returns of the S&P 500, this year it's about 30%. S&P 500 is the top 500 stocks, right? It basically put in an index. So when you buy into it, you're getting the returns based on these 500 companies. All right. So you're making 30% over this year because we had a good year. Recently, we had the dump in the last day and a half. So the S&P probably went down. I haven't looked at it recently. But overall, like, I just made 15% in a day. So how did I do it? So I'm going to show you how I made the 15% in a day right now. And I'm just going to go over a couple fundamental concepts before I show you the charts of how I do it, so you understand what I'm doing. There's basically three things you need to know about this, right? First thing is, I've picked a stock to trade that I know something about. So when I'm trading and I'm making this 15 to 16% in a day, like I did today, I'm trading a stock that I know something about. All right. So there's three things here. Number one, I know something about Bitcoin, which is cryptocurrency, right? So I've been invested in Bitcoin since 2018. So I know quite a bit about it. In fact, I've probably studied 1,000+ hours on the subject. And I've also been invested in it. I've made very, very good money with Bitcoin because I got in early, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is I've also am very studied on Microstrategy. Now, Microstrategy is a company that is the largest holder of Bitcoin on the planet. So if you look at any company on the planet, the company that has the most amount of Bitcoin on their balance sheet is Microstrategy. They have approximately 40-something billion dollars on their balance sheet. Nobody comes close to the holdings of Microstrategy besides BlackRock, which is an institution, obviously, that has more Bitcoin than MicroStrategy. So I know about MicroStrategy, which is why I also trade MicroStrategy, which is why I was able to make 15 to 16% today. I just exited the trade. Okay. So I trade things that I know about. What is MicroStrategy? Why is it a good stock to invest in for me? I'm not giving financial advice, but why did I buy into it early? Because I think they've done the most intelligent move of any company in the last 100 years. I truly believe that. The most intelligent financial move. They put Bitcoin on their balance sheet starting in 2020. And now MicroStrategy's stock returns, they've outpaced NVIDIA, which was the #1 returning stock all year. So that's pretty impressive. So I've been studying MicroStrategy. I bought my first shares in MicroStrategy back in 2020. My largest positions were put in this year on MicroStrategy early in the year. So I'm up heavy on MicroStrategy. So I decided that I wanted to also trade MicroStrategy, right? So I know about Bitcoin. MicroStrategy buys a lot of Bitcoin. And I decided that I wanted to trade MicroStrategy because it has lots of volatility. So I want to trade things that have lots of volatility. If it didn't have lots of volatility, I wouldn't be able to make 15 or 16% in a day like I just did today. Make sense? So I'm looking for volatility. Now, I know a lot of times people have been told in investing like, oh, you don't want things that are volatile, but volatility to me is my friend. All right. The last 2 days when Bitcoin dumped, MicroStrategy dumped down. Again, nobody likes to see their portfolio go down, but I'm not selling. Make sense? The only thing I was doing when things dumped was buying. All right. And so I entered new positions when things were dumping because I'm not looking to buy at the top. I'm looking to enter into a trade and buy something when it's lower. Make sense? So that's exactly what I did when people were freaking out. I was talking to my friend in the hallway last night. We were here. And we were like licking our chops to buy into MicroStrategy when it went low. Now, the way that I buy in, I'm going to show you the charts that tell me when to buy, when to sell. So I'm actually being guided by data when I make my buying decisions. So I'm not just all of a sudden like, oh, I feel like I'm going to buy today. No, I'm being guided by charts and data that show me when to buy and when to sell. And I'm going to show that to you right now. Now, I am not the creator of this technology, so I'm giving a shout out to two people here. You have TradingView is one of the softwares that I use, and InvestAnswers, the guy by the name of James. James is awesome. If you haven't followed InvestAnswers, you should follow them, subscribe to their channel. Phenomenal. He gives great information. So I'm giving credit where credit is due. The only thing I'm doing right now is automating the system because I can't watch the charts all day long. In fact, I missed out. While I made 15 or 16% today, I would have made 20% had I had it automated and had when the signal came up, I just sold the position, I would have made 20% today. So I missed out on 4% because I was doing business. I was on a phone call with my team, and all of a sudden I missed 4% on the trade. But I still made 16%. I exited the position, no problem, right? So let me show you how it's done, okay? This is inside the view of the trading charts to see how you make the trade. Now, as I'm showing you this chart, I don't want to give you a word you don't understand. Just write this down. I'm not recommending that you go buy this, okay? But it's called MSTU, okay? MSTU. It's not MicroStrategy. If you were to look up MicroStrategy on the ticker, MicroStrategy is MSTR. My largest position is MicroStrategy. It's my largest position, okay? Because it's gone up so damn much this year. Bitcoin was my largest position at the beginning of the year. I entered MicroStrategy. I swapped out some Tesla for MicroStrategy early in the year for a lot of MicroStrategy, and it just boomed, went through the roof. So it's my largest position right now. But when I'm trading, I'm not trading on a daily basis MicroStrategy. I'm trading something called MSTU, which is basically a derivative of MicroStrategy. So basically, it's like a version of MicroStrategy, but it's not MicroStrategy. Does that make sense? So if you want to look it up, it's MSTU, okay? And so MSTU trades when MicroStrategy goes up, say MicroStrategy goes up 5%, MSTU, the derivative of MicroStrategy, MSTU, if MicroStrategy goes up 5%, MSTU will go up typically 10%. Everybody tracking this? So it does 2x what MicroStrategy does. All right. Now, again, buying into this something like this. If it goes up 2x, you're happy. When it goes down 2x, you're not happy. So this is kind of trading to some degree on leverage because it's a leveraged MicroStrategy position. Okay. And again, the ticker is MSTU. If you go on Robinhood, you can look at it. If you go in your Fidelity account, you can look at it. Go anywhere. You can look up MSTU and you'll see the stock. Okay. Again, if you're just joining us, MicroStrategy owns lots of Bitcoin, right? So I trade on a daily basis. I hold MicroStrategy long, and then I trade on a daily basis a derivative, a form of MicroStrategy called MSTU. So MicroStrategy goes up 5%, MSTU goes up 10%. That's typically how it works. MicroStrategy goes down 5%, MSTU goes down 10%. MicroStrategy goes down 10%, MSTU goes down 20%. So it's a 2x. Make sense? So when I show you the charts, you're going to be like, wow, this thing's moving 20% in a day. This is crazy, right? Because if you look at MicroStrategy, if I look at the charts right now for MicroStrategy, and we see where MicroStrategy closed at to what's about to close, it'll go into after hours trading in a second. But MicroStrategy's up 11% today, okay? But the 2x of MicroStrategy, MSTU, is up 20-something% today, okay? So let me show it to you right now, okay? And I could have waited a little bit longer on this trade because I missed about 5 or 6%. But anyway, no use to be greedy when you're trading. I made 15, 16% today. Okay. So here's what it looks like. Here's the chart. This is super dope stuff. Like, again, I'm giving credit where credit is due. InvestAnswers, shout out to them. And it actually shows you that it's up 22% today. So we go here. I come back to you guys. You can see it on the screen, right? So basically what you're looking at here, right, is you're looking here at the chart, all right? So when you see on this position, when you see the yellow line, super basic stuff, right? You see the yellow line. Well, the yellow line turned blue, right? So you follow this yellow line and all of a sudden it turns blue, right? So yesterday, when it was heavily down, I bought into this position yesterday when it was down by 22% from where it is right now. So I bought in, like, in this stock, it was at about 10, okay? Because, again, this is a derivative of MicroStrategy. It's a 2x on MicroStrategy, so it's not actually MicroStrategy. So I bought in when it was much lower yesterday, when the trend line of the yellow turns to blue. And then today I was watching the line as the blue's going up, You see this red signal up here. This red signal up here tells me it's almost time to sell. Okay? So the red signal up here that you hear, it's like it's almost time to sell. So if you look at this graph, it's going, the blue line's going straight up. That is a 20% gain right there. And that's a 20% gain in the period of about 16, 17 hours. So all I did was I watched the chart. I watched the chart today. And if you can see, you got to look closely on this. If you can see, the line turns a little bit yellow. So the blue goes, after the red signal, the blue goes a little bit yellow. And the moment the blue line turns to yellow here, if you see on the chart, that's when I sold out. So the moment it turns to yellow, that's when I sold out. So basically, I sold out at a 16% gain, okay, today. So that's it, okay? Again, this is if you want to learn how to do this, TradingView is the software that I have that shows these that shows the stocks and shows the cryptocurrencies. And then I follow InvestAnswers, is another group that has I plugged in their software here to get these charts, right? This is both TradingView and InvestAnswers, to answer your question, Sue. It's TradingView and InvestAnswers together. I put them together. Okay. And then I studied from InvestAnswers to watch how the trading is done. And so I studied many hours to figure this out. And then I tested. And also, if you want to test with paper money, this is pretty cool, right? So when you're first trading, I started testing with paper money and just watching. There's something called Alpaca, and you can actually plug Alpaca in. It's very easy, and it's exchange down here. So when you go to TradingView, if you want to trade from a certain exchange, you pick Alpaca, and then you can trade paper money. And even on TradingView, it gives you the option to do paper money. So if you don't want to trade with real money to start, you do it with paper money. And you can play around and test it out for a month or so on paper money and then see what's your success ratio. When I follow these charts, my success ratio is over 90% on the trades. Okay. Now, the greatest problem, again, if you're just joining us, this is the chart. Okay. If you want to learn how to do this, go get TradingView. Go subscribe to InvestAnswers on YouTube. I'm giving credit where credit is due. This is where I learned the trading components by these two groups. I plugged them together. Here's the software. Now I trade. Okay. This is how I made 16% today. To be exact, 15.7% or so. All right. So, and I'm trading with a Microstrategy, a derivative of Microstrategy, which is a 2x, which is how I get high rates of return in a daily basis when I trade. Okay. So this is it. This is the game. All right. You see the yellow trend line turns blue. That means buy. The blue trend line goes up, and then it gives a red signal, and eventually it turns yellow, and that means sell. Now on this, it's a little bit more complex than this, so you got to get trained on this. That's not all there is to it. There's actually 3 indicators that tell you to buy, 3 indicators that tell you to sell. That's simple. Okay. So once you go learn this, again, I get no affiliate commissions for telling you to go to TradingView. I get no affiliate commissions for telling you to go to InvestAnswers. I'm not telling you to go trade your own money or invest your own money. This is not financial advice. If I were you, I would go learn and do it with paper money and then see if you want to do it with real money. Okay. So that's how I'm making these high rates of return. That's simple. All right. Now, here's kind of the rules that I've learned in trading. And I'm going to stop sharing this screen. If you're just joining us, this is the chart that tells me to buy. This is the chart that tells me to sell. It told me to sell today, right before the market closed. I closed out my position. I made 15.7% in 16 hours. Okay. All right. Not a bad day's work, right? Now, what are the upsides? What are the downsides of trading? I'm going to give them to you right now. And what's the benefit of holding long term? All right. So the upsides of trading and the downsides of trading. All right. So one, this is just from my personal experience. The upsides of trading are it's fun. It's such a fun game. All right. The downside is if you can't watch the charts, like what I was just showing you was on a 10-minute chart. So every 10 minutes you're getting signals. But basically on the 10-minute chart, when I'm trading MicroStrategy, I place about 1 trade a day. Okay. So the benefit is when I'm trading the way that I do, I place 1 trade a day. And today I made about 16%. Okay. The reason I hesitate to say 16 is it was precisely about 15.7%. Okay. So the benefit is that you get to trade and it's a fun game. The benefit is you can make quick money. The negative is if you're trading and you miss the charts and you miss the signal because you're at work, you're out with the kids, you're doing something else, you can lose money. All right. And I have lost money in trading only when I didn't pay attention to the chart. Okay. And that's the other thing. When you're trading and you let emotion get involved rather than data, then you can lose money. All right. Now, these charts that I follow, there's over a 90% win ratio. I placed 1 trade that didn't work out for me when following the charts. So far in following these charts, in following these charts that I just showed you, it's a 90% win ratio if I just follow what the chart tells me to do. Now, here's an interesting thing, right? The other thing too is like if you're trading and you're learning to trade, and you start messing up a little bit when you learn to trade, because in the beginning you can make mistakes. If you had just held the position, like you probably would have made more money over those 3 months during the bull run than trading. And so it's a new skill set. It's a new thing that you're learning. And so if you make mistakes, you make mistakes. And unfortunately, you'll miss out on returns. You might lose some money, etc. Which is why I recommend, if you're ever going to learn to trade on a daily basis, start trading with paper money. When you go to TradingView, tradingview.com, I think it is. When you go to TradingView, you can trade with paper money. There's an option there. So I would never start trading with real money. I would watch the charts. And then the third rule is pick things that you know about. So I know about MicroStrategy, and so I've been following MicroStrategy since 2020. I've been a huge fan of Michael Saylor and have watched, hours and hours and hours and hours of his content. I've been invested in Bitcoin since 2018. So I know Bitcoin, I know my MicroStrategy, so I trade MicroStrategy because I know it. Make sense? So if you're going to trade, learn something about the stock that you're trading and then trade it. All right. So those are the negative things, right? If you're not watching the chart, you miss out. If you let emotion get involved versus data in trading, you lose money. If you think like, hey, I think the market's going to go up, so I'm going to hold on to this trade. Typically, sometimes you might be wrong and you lose money. So when I follow the trading charts, if you're just joining us, I'm gonna share with you the trading charts that I use right here. When I follow the trading charts, I win. It's just as simple as that. And where's the trading chart I want to show you? Right here. This is the trading chart that I was showing everybody before. If you're just tuning in, it's right here. That's the trading chart. Okay. TradingView. If you want to learn more about this, go TradingView. I have no affiliate relationship. I make no money by telling you this. Okay. And also InvestAnswers. I first learned about Bitcoin in 2018 on my own research. 2020, I first bought into MicroStrategy, my own research, and I've been a Tesla since 2016. It just so happens that when I started listening to InvestAnswers to learn trading, James is hugely bullish on these three stocks that I just talked about in cryptocurrencies: Bitcoin, Tesla, and MicroStrategy. So I was like, great, I'm aligned with him. Let me see what he's doing. I started to watch his trading stuff, and I bought his trading software, and I've been doing it ever since. Make sense? So again, 95 to 96% of everything that I own, I hold long-term, and then I trade with about 4% of my money. And again, today I made about close to 16% on the trade. Now, here's the funny thing, right? So here's the cool thing that's going to happen with MicroStrategy on Monday, and everybody be aware. So what's going to happen with MicroStrategy on Monday is MicroStrategy just joined what's called the QQQ. If you don't know what MicroStrategy is, this is not financial advice. This is just educational advice. I think it's the number one investment to learn about on the face of the planet right now. I think it's the greatest financial move that any company's ever made in the last 100 years. And I think he will go down in history, Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy, as the smartest financial engineering ever put together in the last couple hundred years. That's how bullish I am on this, which is why I bought in early in the year. Now, if you're looking at it right now and you're like, I'm going to buy in, I bought in when it was much, 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 much lower than it is now. But the highest it's been recently in the last 45 days is 530. So the stock went to 530. Yeah, like this morning or last night, it was at 320. And now I believe it closed at about 360 today. Okay. So it moves and it's super volatile. All right. Now, why do you want to know about MicroStrategy? Some big news that just happened with MicroStrategy, and you should follow it and you should learn it. All my friends, I'm like, listen, you need to know about this. And if you ask your friends and you be like, do you know what MicroStrategy is? Most of your friends won't have any idea what it is. Okay. So number one, they're buying a lot of Bitcoin. Okay. They have $40 billion on their balance sheet right now. They're the corporation that holds the most amount of Bitcoin right now on the planet Earth. Nobody holds more than them. BlackRock, which is an institution and a fund, BlackRock holds more than MicroStrategy. Okay. But MicroStrategy is a company that holds it on their balance sheet. Okay. So their treasury reserve is invested in Bitcoin. Okay. Hence, the US, Trump has announced that we will adopt or potentially adopt a Bitcoin treasury reserve strategy. MicroStrategy is doing it for their company. If the US does it for our government, it's gangbusters from there. Okay. Because other governments, I believe, will follow. Now, big news that recently happened, which is why I'm even more bullish, is that Saylor announced that they are buying up $42 billion more of Bitcoin. He announced this a couple months ago. Since then, they've already bought up about approximately $13 billion worth of Bitcoin. So the plan was to buy 42 billion more over the next 3 years. In the last 2.5 months, he's bought up 13 billion of it. I think by Q2 or Q3 of next year, he'll have bought up all 42 billion of his plan. So that is super, super bullish for the stock. Next thing for MicroStrategy, they got added to what's called the QQQ. I'm going to tell you what it means because most people are like, what the hell is the QQQ? QQQ basically mirrors some of the top 100 companies. Okay, there's companies like they're in this index. So an index is like 100 companies. So it mirrors these 100 companies and their returns. And so you have companies like Apple that are in there, etc. Right? So when you get added to this list of top 100 companies, that's a big deal. So they recently got added to the QQQ. That means that when anybody invests in this fund, a portion of the money that's invested in this fund automatically gets allocated to MicroStrategy. So the expectation is that several billion dollars, a couple billion dollars, I should say, about $2 billion and change, will then flow into MicroStrategy as a result of being added to the QQQ. Again, QQQ mirrors the top 100 companies, which is when you hear about the NASDAQ, you have the top 100 companies. And so you have companies like Apple on there, etc. And so it mirrors, it's an index fund that mirrors those 100 companies. So it mirrors the returns of those 100 companies. So MicroStrategy is now part of those 100 companies. And so that is a very, very, very big deal. All right. Very big deal. And at their rate of growth, the belief is that by mid next year, they will also be added to the S&P 500 index. Okay. Now, that's a super big deal because if you know the S&P, a lot of people invest in the S&P. In the QQQ, I think it's about a $400 billion fund. Okay. So a portion of all the money that goes in gets allocated to MicroStrategy. I think about 0.49% gets allocated to MicroStrategy. Okay. So that's about $2 billion. All right. Then in 6 months, if they get added to the S&P 500, that's huge. They'll have even more inflows coming into the company. Plus, they're also adding the $42 billion more to their balance sheet. Already added 13 billion. So what? We got another 29 billion more coming in. So those three events alone indicate hugely, hugely bullish signs for this stock. Plus the fact that we are in a bull market. So the fact that we are in a bull market, right? And a lot of people are like, is the bull market over? Are we in a bear market? Even though there's signs of recession coming, I believe we're in a bull market for Bitcoin and for MicroStrategy and for Tesla. Those are the three holdings that I have the most amount of money in. So I'm holding on to them. I'm strapping in for the ride. And I think this is just the beginning, and this is going to be a rocket ride from here. Again, this is just my point of view. Do not take my advice on it because it's not financial advice. Just go study up on it and learn it. And the three things you should look at, number one, to go study is number one, look at Michael Saylor's $42 billion plan. He's the CEO and founder of MicroStrategy. Look at his $42 billion plan. Get educated on it. Number two, follow what happens on Monday. We know that MicroStrategy officially got added to the QQQ. The money starts pouring in on Monday. Now, I exited a quick trade today. And made 16%, right? The charts told me to sell out. I'm not going to be greedy. I could be going, hey, more money is going to flow into MicroStrategy on Monday and the stock's going to boom and I may miss out on massive returns on that trade. I don't care because 96% of my money is invested long term. And so I have huge positions in MicroStrategy. So if that happens, I'm happy, right? If it booms, I'm happy. I made my 16% on the 4% of money that I trade. And so I only trade 4% of my holdings. So I made my money today. Good. And so we'll see what happens Monday. Okay. If money flows into MicroStrategy, which we know is happening on Monday, the 23rd, for sure. Okay. It's going to be more money that flows in. It could boom. It could go up. Don't know. But when I trade on a daily basis, I follow the charts. When I bet against the charts, I lose. Period. All right. Everything else that I do in terms of when I'm trading long term, I get educated on things. I know a lot about them. I follow it and study it every day. And so I get into things early, like Bitcoin in 2018. I knew I was running around telling my friends. I was at my church telling my friends. At $9,000, I told tons of people, you need to get in on this thing. And $20,000. I remember in December, I think it was 2020, was it, or 2019? We were about to turn to 2020. I was sitting around the table with a bunch of my friends on New Year's. I'm like, listen, I told you at 9,000 to get in. It's 22,000 now. You need to get into this damn thing. They didn't get in. Okay. One of my friends from India was one of the people who took advice this past year when it was at 30. And I said, dude, you need to get into this, right? So I got him at a 30,000 literally in 2023. All right. So I get in early. I've been in Tesla. I think my first buy in Tesla was 2016. All right. My first buy of MicroStrategy was in 2020. My first buy of Bitcoin was 2018. All right. Did I buy more MicroStrategy early this year? Absolutely. Did I buy more Bitcoin in 2023? Absolutely. Did I swap out and sell some positions this year and buy back into Tesla? Absolutely. Those are the three that I'm bullish on. All right. So again, recap. Number one, follow Michael Saylor's $42 billion plan. If you are not following this plan, you are going to miss out on the greatest thing and the greatest financial move ever made by any company, I believe, in the last 100 years. Follow it. Number two, follow what's going on with the QQQ. Monday, we're going to see what happens. Does MicroStrategy go up? Does it go down? We know more money's coming into MicroStrategy because they got added to the top 100 companies. And now there's going to be recurring automatic buys into MicroStrategy from this fund ongoing. Number three, let's see what happens with the S&P 500. Mid-year, will MicroStrategy get added to the S&P 500? Maybe. If they do, it's going to boom even more, is my bullish sign. Fourth bullish sign, despite what Powell said the other day, right? Jerome Powell says, he was asked, will the United States buy Bitcoin, or what do you think about the United States and buying Bitcoin? That was some version of the question. And his response was, we can't buy Bitcoin. And so people heard that. I believe it's one of the reasons why Bitcoin tanked. I watched the feeds and some people were like, sell. So I'm like, dude, why are you selling? Like, who cares? In the short term, it drops. Great. Like for me, that it drops. I still hold my positions. That's when I bought in and I made a trade. Okay, great. Do I like to see my portfolio go down and watch MicroStrategy drop 20%? Do I like to watch Bitcoin drop 11 or 12% or 13% like it did? No. But I know I'm bullish long term. So when you're looking at making investments, guys, and you're looking at making investments long term into things, when you're looking at Bitcoin or you're looking at MicroStrategy, you got to look at 4-year time horizons. Okay. So anybody who's new to crypto or new to Bitcoin, this is not financial advice. If you're going to start doing things, just watch and get educated first. But when you're going to invest in this, you need to know that it's a volatile area. Bitcoin's volatile, MicroStrategy is even more volatile. If you look at the volatility rating on the S&P 500, it's about 15% volatility, 15 volatility. If you look at the volatility on Bitcoin, it's about 60 volatility. If you look at the volatility on MicroStrategy, it's about 90. Okay? So 15 on the S&P 500, 60 on Bitcoin in terms of the volatility, 90 on MicroStrategy. The volatility is high on MicroStrategy. But for those of us who got in early, for those of us who are holding it at least through the bull run, right? We love the volatility. All right. And I fully believe and know we're still in the bull run, despite that things drop, despite that there's warns of a recession coming in. Hey, let's face it. We knew in 2020, we knew that the economy was doomed. I did. Over the last 4 or 5 years, when people are going to the grocery store and they're like, oh my God, how come the things I'm buying at the grocery store is so much more expensive? The data came out from the Fed the other day that like the food costs have gone up 1.6%. Food costs haven't gone up 1.6%. Try going out to a restaurant, right? So your food costs at home are up 1.6%, and going out to restaurants, the cost is up by more. No. Go out to a restaurant, dude. A steak right now in 2024 compared to 2020, some of it, it's almost like 60, 70% up, right? So everything that's being released that you're hearing about, the inflation is 3%. That's bullshit, man. Right? That is the biggest lie on the face of the planet. It ain't 3%. It ain't even close to 3%. It's way higher because the money that we own is being debased. Every time the U.S. prints more money, and we have to keep printing more money to pay for our damn debt. So every time we print more money, guys, the money supply goes up and the value of your dollar goes down. So the inflation is not 3%. Don't get fooled. It's not. It's a lie. All right. And since 2020, I've known that, which is why I got into Bitcoin in 2018. As we started printing more money in 2020, I remember I picked up the phone. I think it was 2019. I called my brother 2019. I'm like, bro, I am all in on Bitcoin, man. I was like, I'm watching what's happening. I'm studying what's happening. We're printing more money. If you had a pizza pie, dude, and that was all the money in the world, imagine this. You got a pizza pie. It's all the money that ever existed in the world. And you got a slice of that pizza pie, right? So imagine you got a pizza pie, right? It's all the money that ever exists in the world. And you have one slice of the pie. You got a slice of pie, right? That represents the money that you own. Now, the pizza pie with the U.S. government, right, where we printed twice the amount of money, the pizza pie just got twice as big. So the pizza pie just got twice as big. Your slice remains the same. So what happens if you got a slice of pizza and the pie is this big? Your slice is that big. But now the pizza pie doubles the size and your slice is still that big. Your slice got smaller. And that's what happened to the money supply. And so it's called debasement of money. Your money got less valuable over the last 4 years because of the printing of money. So now when we're looking at where do we allocate our money to keep up with the debasement of money, the debasement of money on average is at about 12 to 14% per year, which basically means in English, if you are not making 14% per year on your investments or 12% a year on your investments, you're basically not keeping up. That's what it means. Okay. So when you look at where most people are putting their money today, most people are looking at, I'm going to invest my money in the S&P 500 because you get with some fund manager, they tell you we're going to put some of your money here, some of your money there. They invest. You have no idea where your money's going in most of these situations, like your 401k plan, your IRAs that you do. You don't know what your people are doing with your money. You don't. How do I know? In my 20s, my boss was like, hey, let's put some money into these IRAs and these 401k plans, right? Some forced savings vehicles. I had no idea where my money was going, right? First thing I did when I got out of the financial business, when I took my 401k, I emptied the whole damn thing out. I'm like, why am I going to invest in something I can't touch for 30 or 40 years in companies that I know nothing about, right? So that's what's happening for the American public. They put their money into things they know nothing about. The other thing you need to watch out for, too, when you're doing things like this, like the S&P's got lower fees because it just mirrors the index. But when you invest in other funds with advisors and things like that, watch the damn fees, guys. You got to watch the fees, I'm telling you, okay? If you do this, somebody do an experiment right now. Take out your calculator, right? If you were to put this into ChatGPT, somebody do this with me right now. I'm going to show you how a 1% fee eats the hell out of your money over the long term, okay? Watch this, okay? Let's do this experiment together, all right? Then we'll get back to MicroStrategy. If you're just joining me, I just went over how I made about 15.7% on a trade today. I do it by trading things that I know, like MicroStrategy, Bitcoin, etc. But today I was trading MicroStrategy. I was trading a 2x version of MicroStrategy called MXTU. It's 2x leverage. So I was trading on leverage today, which is what I do every day when I'm trading with MicroStrategy. Okay. So I want you to do this. We're going to put this in the ChatGPT. Take your phones right now. Everybody grab your phones. I want you to watch how fees literally eat up your money. So if you have a fund manager right now, if you have somebody who's investing your money for you, ask them what the fee is. I just recently did this with my girlfriend. She's like, yeah, I've got a fund manager. I looked at the fees. I'm like, dude, they're charging you 1% on this. They're charging you on this. And I took out the calculator and I said, listen, we're going to do an experiment with ChatGPT. I'm going to show you how a 1% fee over the course of 20 years will destroy your gains. Even if you're doing 12% or 10% over a 20-year period, that 1% that's taken out every year will destroy your returns. Watch this, okay? So if I were to take $100,000 and invest it over a 20-year period, and that $100,000 were to grow by 12% over that 20-year period, and there was a 1% management fee of my money, like I was being charged 1% every year for somebody to manage my money, what would the value of my $100,000 be 20 years from today? And now compare that to if I took $100,000 and I invested that $100,000, right, without the 1% management fee over the 20-year period at 12%, what would my balance be? Okay, please show me the comparable data in very simple forms of which one would win and by how much. Hold on. We got to do it again. Somebody do it with me. Hold on. We're going to do it one more time. Okay. So I'm investing $100,000 over a 20-year period with a 1% management fee. I'm earning 12% in my investment. How much would I have at the end of 20 years? Now, in scenario B, I'm investing $100,000 over that 20-year period, earning 12% with no management fee whatsoever. What would I make at the end of 20 years? All right. Somebody put it in the chat box over here if you have the answer to this. Let's see what it is. Let's see what the difference is. And this is the difference of fees. So go look into your portfolios right now. If somebody who's managing your money is taking out a fee, you're going to see how this kills your rates of return, okay? So with the management fee, over that time period, your $100,000 would grow to approximately $732,000. So with the management fee, you'd make $732,000 with a 1% management fee. If you invested that same $100,000 without the management fee over 20 years, your investment would be $964,000. Everybody got that? A 1% management fee cost this person over $230,000 for the fund manager to just take 1% of your money every year. Can you believe that? Can you believe that? So instead of having $964,000, this person ends up with $732,000 and they're not even aware of it. Crazy, right? So when you look at today, okay, here's the bottom line. I'm going to sum it up, okay? So when you look at today, you're investing money, right? Number one. And you don't know something about where you're investing money, you probably have somebody taking fund management fees off your money. That's the first thing, okay? So you have a fund manager taking percentages off your money. That costs you quite a bit of money over the long run. Number two, if you're investing in the S&P 500 index today, which we know over the last several years and over the time horizon, it does about 12%, let's say 14%, okay? This year it's had a much better year, but on average it does 12 to 14%. So you're doing 14%. Take out the 1% management fee, you're not doing 14% at all, okay? Next, the money supply is being debased by about 14% a year because every time we print more money, your value of your dollar goes down. Really simple. More supply of something, your value goes down, okay? So your value goes down. So you're getting screwed there, right? So now you got a fund manager taking out 1%. That's costing you money. You're investing in the S&P 500 that's maybe due 12 to 14%. And your money is being debased by 14%. So are you actually making money? No, you're losing money. Okay, now the S&P has much lower fees if there's any fees at all. But if somebody is taking a percentage fee off your money that's being invested, then you're not really making 12 or 13%. You're making a lot less. Make sense? Okay. So what's the bottom line? You have to figure out today, in my opinion, with the way the money supply is currently being debased, you got to make more than 12 to 14% just to keep up. And if you're not, you're basically going nowhere with your money. That's pretty wild. And for those of you who are in bonds, you're getting destroyed, right? If the money supply is deep, like if the money supply is debasing, right? Every year so far by about 14%, right? So if it's debasing by 14% and you're in bonds at 5%, you're losing like 9%. You're losing money. All right. And most people will say, well, no, that's not true. That's not true. The inflation report says that inflation is going up by 3% a year. The inflation report's not true. It's not true. Okay. So you have to look at what's really the invisible tax is that your money sitting in your account right now. If you're sitting in cash, every year that cash is going down by 12 to 14%. It's the invisible tax, right? It's the true cost of inflation eating away at your money. And that's what's happening. So what do you look at? You look at alternative investment strategies. You could invest in gold, true, but gold's an old deal, right? It's like, I love what Michael Saylor says, the founder of Microstrategy. He goes, yeah, bow and arrows were a really good idea until we invented guns, right? Like wooden ships were great because it's all we had until we invented steel, right? So new inventions come along. Gold is like a bow and arrow, guys. All right. If you want a machine gun, that's Bitcoin. And that's the comparable magnitude of it. And the reason why is, it's just, there's not even a comparison. All right. And if you look at the inflows into the exchange traded funds, so you hear about all these things where you can go into your Fidelity account or you can go into your IRA and you can buy the version of Bitcoin, right? Which is like an exchange traded fund. So you hear about BlackRock has their fund, Fidelity has their fund where you can buy and get the upside gains or the benefit of Bitcoin. You don't really own Bitcoin, but you're investing in a fund that is based on them owning Bitcoin, right? So it's the closest you can get to owning Bitcoin. But a lot of people are putting money into these actual funds, right? So tons of people are putting money into these funds right now. So if you look at these exchange traded funds when they came out, lots of our IRA money, lots of retirement money is just flowing into these funds, like billions and billions and billions of dollars. And over the last 11 months, if you look at the funds that flew in to BlackRock's exchange traded Bitcoin fund, BlackRock's, in the last 11 months, what's been flowing into their funds has outpaced all inflows into the gold ETFs over the last 21 years. That's wild. So in 11 months, Bitcoin is ripping gold. Now, the amount of gold and the supply of gold in the world, right, is higher than Bitcoin right now, right, in terms of the amount of money that's invested in gold. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin will surpass it. And one day Bitcoin will have more money invested in Bitcoin than we will in gold. Okay. And so that's my personal belief on it. So Bitcoin is the new era. And just to point it out, all things digital, let's be real about it. Like, when we switch from walking into the bookstore to buying books to actually going to get digital books, when we switch from walking into Blockbuster to getting digital movies, when people used to go into the office all the time and now we're working remotely and digitally, it's just a very common sense thing to see that the trends would move towards digital money, right? And most people don't believe that because they're still like, what is Bitcoin? You can't touch it. You can't feel it. Well, do you really touch and feel your cash today? How many of you actually hold cash? You don't hold cash, right? You literally go with a credit card and you swipe it, right? Or you go with your Apple Pay and there's nothing even physical that you hold. It's just a digital transaction. So to think that we're not on a digital framework of money right now, we are, right? And cash isn't backed by anything. We moved off the gold standard in 1971 or 73 when Nixon took us off it. So a lot of times people will say, well, Bitcoin's not backed by anything. Like, how does it have any value? Well, what's your cash backed by? Not backed by anything. Nothing. So this whole concept of data, and you'll also see a lot of news reporters, like I'm watching the news, and many times these news stations are quite uninformed. And the people who are pushing the agendas on the news stations, they don't want Bitcoin to thrive and survive. And so you have these newscasters that are coming on and they're challenging like people like Michael Saylor when they're interviewing him, or they're challenging people that are pro Bitcoin, and they're challenging, and they're asking questions and they don't really even know what they're talking about. They're just firing off questions to create conflict and create a good news story. And they mostly have false data. So I would not take your advice from the news. I would get educated. There's lots of smart people on YouTube. You can watch them. A smart person that I follow and watch all the time is InvestAnswers. James is phenomenal. He'll give you incredible data on this stuff. And then you can surf and find people that you really like to follow and get educated. But like, is Bitcoin volatile? Yes, that's what we like about it. Are there risks associated with it? Yeah, but like, there's risks associated with anything that you're going to invest in. And at the end of the day, like, could we hit a bull market again? Like every bull market that we've had over the last since the inception of Bitcoin, where it goes up and then it goes down? Yeah, very possible. I think the bull market will probably come to an end around August or September next year, somewhere around that time frame. And could we see a drastic drop? We could, right? But if you look at the time horizon of holding over a 4-year period, over every 4-year period, Bitcoin's never lost money. So when you're investing in it, if you're going to do it, and this is not financial advice, I would not think about investing in something like this and looking at like, okay, tomorrow, like I gotta make my money tomorrow in 1 week. That's not the way to invest in Bitcoin. Okay. If you're trading on a daily basis, that's a different story. But if you're investing long term, which 96% of my money is invested long term, then you look at it from the perspective of, do I believe in this asset? Do I want to buy it? Do I want to hold it long term? And do I know something about this asset? And I believe if you get educated about Bitcoin, you will understand it. And if I were in somebody's shoes, I would still buy it. Okay. I believe if you get educated about MicroStrategy, you won't listen to some of the news stations or some of the videos on there that go, MicroStrategy is a Ponzi scheme. It's the furthest thing from a Ponzi scheme. The person who says that has no data and no knowledge whatsoever of what they're talking about at all. Okay. So you listen to sometimes people who bash things because they don't understand it. And when you understand the data, you can see the truth of it. And particularly when you look at Bitcoin, which is like kind of the solid foundation of this thing, right? And then you look at MicroStrategy, like MicroStrategy is like a proxy or a substitute for Bitcoin. MicroStrategy's success stems from Bitcoin because they bought Bitcoin. They were just the first mover that decided we were going to put Bitcoin on our balance sheet. And since then, their strategy, even though they're a software company that in 2020 was valued at $1 billion, their strategy since 2020 on has been to buy more Bitcoin. And since then, they now acquired billions and billions and billions of dollars of Bitcoin. They're sitting on $40+ billion worth of Bitcoin, and they are the largest holder of Bitcoin in terms of a corporation, okay, in the world. All right. So even their success has derived from them buying Bitcoin. So if you want to trace it back to, you hear stuff about Bitcoin, you hear stuff about MicroStrategy. If you want to trace back the foundation of what you're hearing about MicroStrategy, go get educated on Bitcoin first. If you understand Bitcoin first, then you can learn about MicroStrategy and understand what MicroStrategy is doing because they're buying Bitcoin. And that would be the sequence where you would get educated on it first. Okay. So that's my input for the day. I hope this serves you in a bunch of different ways. Again, I'm hugely bullish on this because I'm not going to have my money sitting in the S&P 500. I'm not going to have my money sitting in bonds. I'm not going to have my money sitting in stuff that's earning less than 14%. I'm looking for returns in things that I'm doing that are 2 and 3x, and that's what I invest in. Okay, and that's why I'm investing in Bitcoin. That's why I've been in Tesla for a while. That's why I'm in MicroStrategy. All right. So I hope this serves you. I'll be doing more of those in the future. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. JB says his came back differently after fees. That's fine. Post it in the chat and then we'll just verify it. But the bottom line is you see that the fees take a lot off your investment, right? Okay. So hope this serves you guys. I'll do more stuff. If you want me to show more things on trading and when I'm trading on a day-to-day basis, I'm happy to do that. I am in development of a software right now that can automatically trade it for me because I'm busy. And when I'm busy through the day and I miss a trade, it kind of sucks because I have to place them manually. But to give credit to TradingView and InvestAnswers, those are the two things that I've been using to trade. And so if you want to trade, you should go get educated from them. All right. Hope this serves you guys. See you on the flip side.